Have you ever had that feeling that maybe, just maybe, someone or something is secretly looking after your home? Well, today we're diving into the story of a creature that might just be hiding out in your barn right now. This is the wild journey of the Nisse, from a shadowy figure in folklore to a full-blown Christmas icon. Seriously, think about it. In a lot of Nordic folklore, there's this belief in a tiny, unseen guardian, a spirit that's totally responsible for the luck and fortune of a family and their farm. But this isn't some sparkly fairy godmother we're talking about. The relationship is, well, it's complicated. So let's meet him. This is the Nisse, or if you're in Sweden, you might call him the Tomte. These guys are ancient domestic sprites. They're solitary, kind of mischievous, and they take it upon themselves to protect one specific homestead. You could say they're the silent, invisible partner in a farm's success, or its failure. To really get who this creature is, we've got to go back to the beginning, and it all starts with its two very different names. So what's in a name? In this case, a whole lot. The word Tomte literally means homestead man. He's basically the spirit of the place itself. But Nisse, now that's a different story. It comes from Niels, which is the Scandinavian version of Nicholas. Now, I want you to tuck that name away because trust me, it's going to become super important later. That despite the different names, they're pretty much the same powerful and really unpredictable little spirit. And yeah, you can forget that jolly, plump gnome you've got in your garden. The original Tomte was small, no bigger than a little kid, but he had the ancient, wrinkled face of a very old man. He dressed in raggedy old work clothes and, this is the most iconic part, he rocked a bright red cap. This guy was a creature of the earth, not some cheerful holiday decoration. But, having a Nisse around wasn't just a matter of good luck. It was more like a contract, and a contract with some very, very specific terms and conditions. The rules seem simple enough, right? First, you had to show him respect and trust him to do his job. The Nisse was a workhorse, but he absolutely hated being watched or told what to do. And second, on Christmas Eve, you had one critical task. Leave out a bowl of Christmas porridge with a big old pat of butter right on top. That's it. Seems easy, right? Well, the consequences for messing it up were anything but. And I'm not kidding, the stakes could not have been higher. This wasn't just some cute superstition. This was about prosperity versus total ruin. If you broke the Nisse's trust, or, heaven forbid, forgot his porridge, he wouldn't just pack up and leave. Nope, he'd take the farm's luck right along with him, leaving the family to face poverty. So what happens when you actually get on a Nisse's bad side? Well, the most famous story about this little guy's temper is all about that bowl of porridge. So the story goes, on one particular farm, a servant girl got it in her head that it would be hilarious to play a little prank on the Nisse. This was a very, very bad idea. Her prank was pretty simple. She took that all-important pat of butter, and instead of putting it right on top of the hot porridge where it belonged, she hid it way down at the bottom of the bowl. So the Nisse shows up for his meal, peeks into the bowl, and sees no butter. To him, this was the ultimate insult. He'd worked his tail off all year, and they couldn't even spare him this one tiny thing. In a fit of pure rage, he stormed out to the barn and killed the farm's absolute best cow. But wait, the story's not over. Still fuming, the Nisse goes back to eat the porridge anyway. And as he's eating his way down, his spoon hits something soft. And there it was, the butter, melted into a golden pool at the bottom. He realized immediately he'd made a huge mistake. And this is where you really see the Nisse's strange moral code in action. He was so filled with regret that he marched right over to the neighboring farm, stole their best cow, and brought it back to replace the one he had just killed. His sense of justice was swift, it was absolute, and it really didn't care about the neighbors' problems. So how in the world did this moody, cow-stealing farm guardian become the cheerful Christmas guy we know today? It's a really fascinating story of names, art, and a whole lot of cultural blending. Okay, so this did not happen overnight. For centuries, he was just the farm sprite. Then, that name Nisse, the one from Nicholas, starts getting more and more popular. By the 1840s, artists and writers start to see him in a new light, reimagining him as the Yule Nisse, the Christmas Nisse, who brought presents. And then finally, in the 1880s, his image totally merges with the international Santa Claus figure, thanks to some really influential illustrators like Jenny Nystrom. That name, that was the key. It was the crucial link. The fact that Nisse was already a nickname for Nicholas created the perfect bridge. It allowed this ancient pagan spirit to just walk right into the Christian Christmas tradition and get connected with the ultimate gift giver himself, Saint Nicholas. And that whole journey brings us to the Nisse of today, a figure who, let's be honest, looks and acts totally different from his ancestor. I mean, just look at the difference here. It is night and day. The small, wrinkly, and honestly kind of vindictive farm protector has become this big, jolly, kind-hearted gift bringer. His whole job description has changed from guarding livestock to making kids happy. And this is the guy that kids all over Scandinavia know and love today, the Nisse. He's basically the Nordic Santa Claus. He shows up on Christmas Eve with a sack full of toys and famously asks, "Are there any good children here?" It's a pretty far cry from the little dude who would kill your cow over a pat of butter. The story of the Nisse is just this perfect example of how folklore changes and adapts, absorbing new traditions to stay alive through the centuries. So the next time you see one of those little gnomes with a red hat on someone's porch for Christmas, just remember his ancient, powerful, and very, very particular ancestor. And maybe, just to be safe, think about leaving out a bowl of porridge. You never know.